Well, so hi you guys. I'm Micah. I'm an alcoholic. I'm out here in Tennessee, and I haven't told my story in a really long time, and I haven't spoken um, since I got sober this time, and so I'll just go for 15 minutes. Hopefully, I'll have enough to say. Um, and yeah, we'll go from there. But I'm really glad for 5D. This is my home group, and I have a sponsor. That's Carissa, and I've been sober for let's see, I guess a year and a half now. And I've had long stretches of sobriety uh, throughout my life, but I've had a lot of trouble staying sober in the past. So I'll start out with just a little bit about me. So I was raised by really good people with really good intentions. They had the illness of addiction, and there were a lot of process addictions in my family. If you don't know what that is, process addictions are things like eating disorders and that kind of thing. Um, and because of a lot of the process addictions, I wasn't able to live with my family for the most part. And so I, uh, I have always really needed family. And that's definitely been like the driver of a lot of the things that I've done in my life. And it's taken me a long time to see, but that's really like the key right there is just looking for people to love that will love me back. And a little bit about um, powerlessness and kind of how that dysfunctional search for family panned out for me. And so I knew I was completely fucked. I think from, gosh, from pretty early on. I didn't start using substances until I was probably 10 or 11. Um, but, even before then, I still felt like, I don't know, like I just had these ideas that I was a bad person. And there was just something different about me. And I had to fix it somehow, had to make myself feel better. And so when I was 10, 11, 12, I was living with a stepsister, and that was the first time that I tried alcohol, and I loved it. It tasted horrible, but I knew that it was a feeling that I wanted, and it a lot of people say that like there's the phenomenon of craving that gets triggered just right away. For me, it didn't happen that way. For me, I tried a lot of other things to make myself feel whole. I would overeat. I would smoke cigarettes. I was a smoker from the time I was about 10. Um, I smoked weed. I um, tried a lot of things. Anyway, I'm getting a little off track, but so yeah, so I think my drinking career started in earnest in high school, and that's when I would start to black out, and people would tell me about the stuff I did the next day, and I didn't like that. Felt really bad, and yet I continued to to drink to the point of blacking out. And that got to be like the very worst that it had ever been in college. That was when, um, some really like fucked up shit started happening. And I didn't really put it together at the time that like having that sort of addict wiring was driving a lot of my behavior. And I can distinctly remember, this is gross, but so there's a kind of alcohol. I won't say it because I don't want to be like triggering, but it's made in all kinds of fun rainbow colors. And one night, I decided I was going to drive around and drink because that was my hobby. And me and my friend had our own little, deals of this really bright, beautiful alcohol. And so I was driving around down the highway, and we had the windows down. And uh, when you drink way too much of something that's a pretty color, the insides of your stomach are that color as well. Okay, well, the next day I woke up and my car just had like different colored stripes on each side from where we had both like had to hang our heads out the window and puke. And that was like, I guess, kind of funny, but it was also like, oh my God, that this is awful. This should not be happening. And that was where I started feeling really embarrassed about my drinking, and I started doing it alone. Um, and so I got to the point where I would need a drink to go to sleep. And so I failed out of college, obviously. And I was never like a functional alcoholic. Um, and so I went through a lot of years of having a lot of stories I could tell you, or I could just kind of tell you that um, it took a really long time before I really realized that um, I couldn't drink, um, because when I drink, I black out and do awful things. And also that alcohol is not going to make me feel any better. It never really has. I know that's not everybody's experience, but for me, it didn't make me feel better. It just made me feel nothing. Um, and I think that's kind of what I wanted. But but yeah, so it took a few really big events in my life. My dad died, and that was like the first time I really decided to quit drinking. I was going to quit drinking entirely. I cleaned out my closet that was like, stacked to the brim with like handles of vodka and just like gross pizza boxes, and it was nasty. And started going to an AA meeting, and that was really good for me. But I still didn't really want to quit, I don't think. And I just wasn't ready. And I didn't understand that, a higher power could actually work for me. A lot of the um, early experiences that I had made me not trust anything spiritual at all. And so yeah, so it took several times of going into to AA and then relapsing. Usually that was around a relationship. I would find, a guy that I really liked, and dating's hard, right? But it's easier if you drink. Um, so I would kind of go through that cycle of like getting into a relationship and starting to drink again, and then going back to an abusive relationship I had, and it just a lot of that, a lot of that. Um, and let's see. So then I guess, okay, so it was about 8 years ago that that I finally went into residential treatment. And I was there for 90 days. And it was really good. And I just thought that I was much better than everyone there. And I didn't really need to be there, like, that was for people who were like really addicted. I wasn't really addicted, so I didn't really need to be there, but it was nice to deal with my feelings. So I got through the 90 days. I stayed sober, and that was, excellent. I made a lot of connections that are still there today. However, I didn't stay sober because it turns out I'm just like you. I am, well, I don't know if you're an alcoholic, but I'm an alcoholic and I'm a member of the human race. I'm a person. We're all people here. And I'm just as susceptible to illness like addiction as everybody else. And so there were a lot of times that I knew I was out of control, and I just continued drinking. Something told me, I'm different. I'm gonna, you know, these horrible things that are happening are just because I'm a bad person. It's not because I have an addiction. Um, and so that led to trying to unfuck my life, right? So I tried a lot of different ways to unfuck my life, and I made a little list. And so prayer and meditation on its own, that that doesn't really work. I tried switching to only beer and wine. I would uh, in college at least, I would put little tallies on my arm for how many shots that I had taken that night. And it was like, oh, okay, that's gonna, I'm gonna see that and see, oh, I've taken however many, and that means I need to stop. Well, fuck that. I never did. Eventually it would just get to where like I couldn't even like write. So anyway, I'd wake up the next morning and it was just like, woo. Um, but so that did not keep me sober. And I would avoid social situations. I would try eating first. Um, and like just none of that shit really worked. And most recently, I got sober from alcohol and then decided it was okay for me to smoke weed, still thinking I'm different from other people. And I tried a lot of ways to stop smoking weed on my own. I didn't accept that I was powerless over substances. And I switched to a vape pen only, and I went to therapy. And, even though I had the feeling the first time that I smoked in like sobriety from alcohol, uh, I had this feeling that I was disconnected from prayer and from just like my internal spiritual life, and continued to smoke and smoked for like a few years, like really quickly became a pothead. I was fired from 2 different jobs. That was another way that I tried to control my addiction. I worked in admissions at a treatment center. And, I did bad there. So I got fired. Um, and again, just not seeing that, like, I was fogging my mind and I was fucking with my judgment. And, you know, was very triggered into all those same alcoholic behaviors of hiding and just doing the bare minimum to get by. Um, so it turns out if you work in a treatment center, you really need to practice self-care. I really needed to practice self-care, and I wasn't doing it. And it's really stressful, and it's not a substitute for actually going to meetings and doing the work that I need to do. So that didn't work. And so most recently, um, my mom died. So my mom died about a year and a half ago, a little more than that. And I realized I did not have the kind of relationship that I wanted to have with her. You know, and a lot of that was because I was smoking weed. And I didn't really like to talk to her when I was high. So I didn't talk to her for a long time. And, you know, that is awful. It's just awful. And, you know, it's still really, it's still really recent. And um, I'm still kind of dealing with it. But it did prompt me uh, to, to stop taking substances, to make myself feel nothing, I think, to try and control my feelings. And so when she died, I started coming to 5D. I was going back and forth between Tennessee and Texas, which is where I'm from. And I would get to her house, and then in the evenings, I would go on 5D, and you know, uh, it was just so incredibly helpful because it was just this empty house. And it was hard. It was really hard. And it just showed me like how empty my life had become. And I needed to make a change. And so I did. I really tried to get my spiritual life in order, I guess you could say. I really had to realize that I'm just like everybody else. I really am. And not to be too hokey, but like, you know, we're all we're all one. We're all we're all in this together. And I'm not unique. I'm someone who's susceptible to all kinds of character defects. And you know, I have, since I've gotten a sponsor and been working the steps, a lot has changed for me. Um, I am much more confident and aware of, I don't know, man, just like kind of that inner voice um, that is there for me. Um, and I don't know, some people could call that their higher power. We could talk about that, but um, ultimately, what the steps have brought to me is a solution to feeling uncertain, and to just feeling out of place. And I have started going to meetings fairly regularly, sponsoring people, and just having a little bit better perspective on the relationships in my life. Since I've gotten sober, my husband has also gotten sober. He's also an alcoholic. I have, like I said, started sponsoring people and sort of seen them really start to thrive. And I've started holding myself accountable for the relationships I have with other people. And, you know, I can't force a relationship to work. And so there's members of my family that, I've had to learn to put up some boundaries with because, um, it's important to listen to that inner voice that's saying like, hey man, something's just not quite right here. And I'm here for my family if they ever want to you know talk to me about being sober. I'm happy to be there for them. But ultimately, like, I can't control another person. I can control myself, um, and my actions. um, yeah, I don't know, man. I guess that's about all I got. Ultimately, I'm really grateful for AA. I'm grateful for the steps, and I'm really grateful for all my friends and for you guys. So yeah, that's it.